This is the Final Round Podcast, coming to you live from the FingerLakes1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls, New York. And now your host, Chris Marquardt. Good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to this edition of the Final Round Drag Racing Podcast. Excited to have you along for the ride with us. This evening should be a fun one, a little bit of a unique format for everything. As we mapped everything out through the course of the day, we continued to run into surprises and curveballs and other various minutia, I guess you could say. Jason got into town a solid 3 hours early, so that's one of the reasons why we're here at this time for this episode is mostly because he's in town and we really didn't have anything else come together the way that we had planned, so here we are.
I was thinking that this is the daylight saving special.
Yeah.
It said the clock says 7:01 there, so I think we're right on time. We just we're. It's funny because people from a daylight savings time, it's like, oh, we shouldn't we shouldn't observe daylight savings time, and my response is always, no, we absolutely positively should, because everybody likes the way that the sun rises and sets time-wise in the summer. It's in the wintertime when we turn the clocks back and we're on standard time that nobody likes it. So it's like, I want to go to daylight savings time all the time. So that's all we're doing here is this is Jason's attempt at sticking with daylight savings time.
Right. And this is the time of year where everybody walks around aimlessly, right? And just keeps looking out the window at dinner time and says, wow, I can't believe how dark it is.
Okay. Me included. Yeah, me included. I can't stand it, honestly. I hate, I just really hate when it gets dark at, is it 5 o'clock? I mean, it's probably I know it gets to the point where it's pre 5 o'clock sometime in December, but yeah, I can't stand that.
We were having a conversation at dismissal today at the school and bouncing back and forth about how miserable it is this time of year, because when we have dismissal, we have to stand outside with the kids, and the sun's not really on that part of the school at that point of the day because it's gotten so low on the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
And in reality, what is going on with this? I swear, a bunch of stuff got changed in here. I am sure of it, because I don't know. We had a bunch of trouble on the phones on Monday with no sound, and I see the microphone has been changed again. This isn't the microphone that we had on Monday. Oh. This isn't the old microphone. This is the not the new microphone, the old new microphone. We're back to the old new microphone now, and I'm still thinking it feels like it's super quiet, but I don't know.
I guess well find out.
It points at spiking off it's acting like there's a bad chord someplace, because it's quiet, and all of a sudden it just spikes and pegs and breaks up, and then it's quiet. But I mean, that's
now that's your microphone or mine?
That's mine right now. Yours was super quiet. We were having trouble with the phone microphone earlier because it's real high tech. We stick a phone in a set of headphones next to There's a way that we can run it through the computer, but I haven't done it yet, and no one's told me how to do it yet, so we're just going to go with it.
Well, and we don't... I'm not going to say nothing. We'll make it work. I'm just gonna leave it at that. We'll make it work.
We haven't got anybody to talk to today.
Right. Yeah. We'll get tech support in here to help us out. Right.
Is that true that we do, or we don't have someone waiting in the wings?
Oh yeah, we do. Yeah, we have Kevin Orr. Kevin Orr is going to be joining us. It's been quite a while, actually. We've had Kevin on the show before. But it's been quite a while since Kevin has been on the show. The last time, I want to say, well, I think Ryan Bonifero had just potentially won the championship, the TNT championship for him.
Okay.
When we had him on the show last time, but much like yourself, Kevin had an accident and hurt his back, and then wasn't able to get in the car, so we got Ryan to drive for him. But I actually haven't talked to Kevin, and because Kevin is from Canada, we haven't been able to see each other.
Right.
Yeah.
And you won't in the foreseeable future.
It sure doesn't look like that. It looks like it's going to be a while. It's We probably don't even want to go there, right? Because this is a drag racing podcast, not a.
Would you like to dive into politics?
Not a politics podcast. But yes, it looks like unbelievably that one of the, I guess, most developed countries in the world is going to be on the blacklist and not allowed to have their citizens go anywhere or do anything because we have one of the worst COVID infection rates in the country, or in the world, but. It's due to testing, right? It's because we're doing more testing than anybody is why our.
Is that why?
Yeah, that's what I've been told. So.
Sounds as good as any.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to talk to Kevin and see how he's been and how his racing season. I don't even know honestly what they did, what Kevin and those guys did. I mean, TNT didn't run in 2020 at all. I know that Ted Barnes did a little bit of racing, but
the handful of series that did run, I don't think most of them, at least within our earshot, even crown champions if they did run.
Right. Hey,
it's Chris. Let me put you in.
Yep, a couple of us did. A couple of people did, but West New York Super Rod Association, we didn't crown a champion for 2020. There was just no reason to do points, in my opinion. So.
For both races.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, we've got one Kevin Orr here on the line, so we can catch up with Kevin without any ado to find out more about what did happen. What were you able to do up in Canada? Kevin joining us on the hotline. Kevin, man, welcome to the show.
Thank you. How are you?
We're all right. I mean, we're getting by. The big conversation here is just kind of as we kind of morphed our way through the opening of the show as we landed on what did happen for the racing series and the racetracks in Canada at this point. Were able to get on track and do anything this summer?
Personally, I didn't. They had a lot of bracket racing events at the local tracks. But personally, I'm not much of a bracket racer. I used to do it, but I got spoiled with index racing, and I really, really miss the index racing. So I was working hard on the car in March, and then the lockdown came, and well, it's still sitting in the garage on Ford jack stands with the brand new tires mounted on the wheels, sitting in the trailer.
Wow, that's a bummer.
So yeah, I didn't. This was supposed to be my big comeback year after Patrick driving the car for 2 years.
That's right. I forgot, Kevin. That I think the last time we had talked to you, you had mentioned that you were going to drive the car this year, right? That
was the plan, and I was all amped up and ready to go. And other people had different plans for our society.
Yeah, so you had no place to go. So did you end up working on the car over the summer?
I did nothing. I was working on it in March, and then when the border closed, I thought, oh, well, okay, the border will close, but it can't be that long. I had nobody, I don't think, had any idea it was going to turn out like this.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's for sure. I mean, I have to say, like yourself, when the border got closed, I figured it was going to be, a couple of weeks at most. If you would have told me back then that the border was going to be closed until Christmas, I would have thought you were crazy.
Jason, I don't think the border is going to be open at Christmas.
I mean, I have to say, I completely agree. I mean, at this point, I'd be shocked if it was open before January 1st.
Now, if I had tons of money, I would get a plane and fly my car down there because apparently I can fly to the States. All I have to do is quarantine for 14 days when I come home.
There you go.
But apparently driving over isn't quite so easy.
Yeah, I will say that's kind of the crazy thing too, right? Is the fact that you can fly here all you want. You have, like I said, you have to quarantine. But I know somebody who actually came across. Him and his wife came across recently. He has dual citizenship, so they come down and they spend their winters in Florida. So they're driving down. He's driving the motorhome down. She's flying down from Toronto, and he's going to pick her up at the airport, and then she's going to quarantine in Florida for 4 months and then fly back.
Quarantine at the motorhome. Right on.
Right, exactly.
Is there a drag strip I could quarantine quarantine that for, I don't know however long they want me to.
That's a pretty lavish press box they have at Empire.
Right, yeah.
Well, perfect. We're racers. It's inside. It's got to be better than sleeping in a tent.
I was to say, if you think about over the course of your racing career, all the terrible places you've slept to go racing, inside on a nice hard floor would be great.
Yeah, I remember when I first started, I had an open trailer, and I remember going to Cayuga, and you wanted to have a nap to get out of the sun. I would lay on the ground underneath the closed part of the open trailer.
Right.
So I can't complain too much. It was a shame. I really was looking forward to going racing this year.
Now, were all the tracks actually open this year?
To my knowledge, yes. I think that Grand Bend and London, who are now owned by the same guy who owns Grand Bend, he took over London, may have opened a little later. Okay. And my understanding is had more strict, I don't want to call it rules, but we're more careful about, if you're not at your pit spot, you have to have a mask and all that stuff.
Yep.
Cayuga opened, and Cayuga was Cayuga. I looked at, you'd look at posts from the big outlaw street races and stuff, and there was all kinds of people, and they looked like they were all having a good time.
Well, I guess that's certainly good. I will say that I didn't hear of any, all the racetrack casualties, I guess, that I heard of were actually pre-season 2020. So, yes, Norwalk closed for the season. They didn't go out of business, but they closed for the season.
Well, after him saying he didn't care what was going to happen and he was going to open, and yes, I don't think that worked in his favor.
No, it definitely did not. But like with Atco and Englishtown, I mean, that was prior to that going away. I don't think I heard of any track actually going under because of this, which is good news.
The only thing I get the magazine Inside Track up here, which is way more concentrates on everything, but they do a little drag racing, but it's mostly all the oval track and other classes. And I gather a lot of those guys are suffering because allowing 100 spectators into a place that can hold 5,000 people, the math doesn't add up.
Right. Yeah.
So, and I feel sorry for all those people. I'm glad that the drag strips appear to have survived, and I'm glad to see that Lancaster and Empire carried on. And I really want to go there next year. Next year, like 5 months from now, would be perfect. But, I don't know. Like, didn't Englishtown close down because they sold the place and now they're parking cars there or something like that?
Yeah, it's exactly it. And my understanding is that's what they want to do with Atco as well. I mean, it's a shame, but the property is worth a lot more money as a parking lot in that area of the country than it is as a drag strip.
Well, I think generally isn't that what happens to all of our facilities?
It happens to a lot of them, unfortunately, as urban sprawl takes over, right?
Yeah, and like my wife's the president of the local Anglers and Hunters Club. Well, when they built it 75 years ago, it was in the boondocks. Yep. And now it's surrounded by residences that are complaining about the noise of shooting.
Right.
I don't understand that. So that's what happened to the racetrack in Waterloo.
Yeah.
The fairgrounds.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of town, relatively speaking. It's like 3 blocks from Main Street, which is 5 and 20. Was Maple Grove Speedway or Waterloo Speedway.
Yeah.
And it closed because the neighbors were complaining about the dust and the noise and everything when the races would be contested. Now, that doesn't make
even
any
though
sense,
they knew when they moved there, and their lawyers would have had to have told them when they moved there.
Unless you moved in blind,
right,
and complete with the worst loan brokers ever.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You had to know.
Right.
You had to know. The back gate is on Wright Avenue, and Wright Avenue has houses right in front of it.
Yep.
They had to know, and I don't get it. So one of the things that Kevin was talking about was the racetracks up in Canada and the oval tracks, Rockville, Ontario Speedway, Merrittville, the RPM, Granby, Drummond, places like that. A lot of them were sort of in the same boat as we were. Humberstone opened and was competing.
Yeah.
But they didn't have the fan base. They were restricted. Merrittville Speedway, same thing. They opened and they competed. You start getting on those border tracks, though, like Ransomville Speedway out near Buffalo, the Niagara Frontier. Ransomville never opened because half of their car count had to come over the border.
Okay.
So they didn't. They didn't run at all. But then on the flip side, you look at someplace like Can-Am up in Lafargeville.
Yep.
They ran just about a full season, and they even had fans a couple times. But you're allowed X number of people per car, but they don't do a pre-registration roster of this guy's the tire changer, this guy's the gas man.
Yep.
So you go to the gate and you just sign into the pits and you stay in the pits and you sit in the pit grandstands with your mask on and your mask on when you're moving about. And
I'm with number 17.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's
I would just say I'm with Jason.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Here with Jason Oldfield.
Yeah, exactly.
If you got a problem, go see Jason.
So James Kraft checking in. Englishtown or Old Bridge Township Raceway Park is still a functioning motorsports park. The drag strip has been reconfigured into a figure-8 drift pad.
You know what? I think I read that on Facebook earlier in the summer.
I had not heard that. I had not heard.
You're talking parking cars, like insurance overflow, stuff like that.
Yeah, that was the last I knew. Yeah. That was exactly what
there's a bunch of overhead shots of, I think it's the old Fort Worth Speedway in Texas, that they were doing the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just like, this travesty of same idea, but it sounds like there's still at least some function of racing, motorsport type activity at
and I was not aware of that. The last I had heard with Englishtown is that I saw some pictures of them taking the walls down, and that was the last.
Hard to drift into the walls.
What was that, Kevin?
Hard to drift into the walls.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I guess maybe that's why. But yeah, it's really sad that track has gone away. But I mean, to your point, Chris, I mean, that reason with Ransomville not opening, right? That's a kind of exactly why I haven't had an actual conversation with Ted Barnes, who runs the TNT, but I'm sure that's why Ted didn't do TNT this year too, right, Kevin? Was because of the fact that
Lori and I had called Joe Bonifero, who's, as you know, the presenting guy.
Yep.
And said, look, Joe, I'll put up some money, you put up some money, we'll have a Canadian TNT race.
Sure.
And he said to me, you know what, Kevin, to get 8 or 10 cars, it's too much work. And
I get it. I totally get it. I mean, that's where I guess I will say I was with regards to, Western York Super Route Association too. For us, it made a big difference going to the 5/10 Pro Tree from the 4/10.
I hope that worked out for you.
Oh, it worked out very well. Yeah, it worked out really well. I mean,
both races.
Yeah, I mean, the season itself obviously was pretty terrible, but
it depends if you like rain.
Right, exactly.
Did you invite Brian Epp to your races or something?
Yeah, we had I think 3. We had 5, I believe, after COVID. We had 5 races scheduled, and we had 3 of them, I believe, rain out. And we had then one of our rescheduled races rain out. So we ended up running twice, I think. Yeah. I think it was two races total. That's all we were able to get in.
That's. I mean, we have no control over the weather, but I have to give you credit for going to all the effort, because I know what kind of efforts is involved to set that up, to go there and watch it rain.
It definitely stinks. I mean, it's the pun is it definitely put a damper on it, right?
But no pun intended.
Yes, exactly. But anyways, going to the 5/10 Pro Tree, definitely made a huge impact for us. We picked up a whole bunch of competitors that didn't compete with us previously. So, but prior to that, when we were running the 4/10 Pro Tree, yeah, trying to run the series and having 8 cars show up, it was really disheartening. It was really disheartening. It's like, why am I doing this? Why am I spending all this time to put a race together to have 8 cars show up? It's like, I can't do it anymore. So I understand where Joe was coming from. Yeah, I mean, the other thing that was tough, too, is that I didn't feel like it was right in COVID 2020 to go to sponsors. I mean, we had sponsors that had committed to giving us money, and prior to COVID even occurring, and I didn't feel it was right to go to them and ask them to pony up the money that they promised. I also didn't feel it was right to go to and try to get more sponsorship money as well. So we just ran unsponsored for 2020, but hopefully that can change for 2021.
Well, I hope so, and that's an honorable thing for you to do, and I would think that I would be the same way. If you can't deliver value to what you've told them, then you really shouldn't go to them and say, okay, we're here, you told me you'd do this.
Right, yeah, and that's exactly it. I figured it was going to be difficult to deliver that value, and obviously we go back to March, when everybody was shut down. It's like, to go to a company and ask, hey, can you give us $500? Be like, what, are you serious? I don't even know if my doors are going to be open in a month. I can't give anybody anything.
I'm running into that with my work. My customers are pretty well all retail stores.
Uh-huh.
And they're saying to me, well, yeah, we need you to do these repairs, but
right.
We don't know, is there another lockdown coming? We don't know what to order for stock. We don't know if we'll still be open at Christmas or we'll be locked down again.
Yeah, I will say, how are things in Canada with regard to COVID? Is it the same as it is here?
Well, I mean, it's hard. I hate to use the term fake news because all I see from the States is what I see on Facebook and stuff.
Sure.
I don't know that I don't know. I don't want to get in trouble, but I'm not sure that we're not all overreacting.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Canada has had 11,000 deaths. Well, but we have 37 million people.
Yeah.
And then they say to me, well, they can't open the U.S. border. Look at what's going on. They have 250,000 deaths. But they have 375 million people, but nobody ever adds that caveat.
Right. Well, I would say that. I mean, if you have 30,
it's 250 million cases and around, right?
250,000 deaths.
Is it deaths?
Yeah. It's around 200. It's around.
That's right. Yeah, because we were doing that. It's like 2.5%. It's
right.
Nothing,
Yeah.
Right?
So I mean, overall, from
way more people don't die than do die. If you ask me.
Yeah. Well, from the numbers that you just gave, Kevin, so I mean, the rate for Canada compared to the U.S., well, let's call it just the general rate, the death rate is definitely lower. It's about half of what it is in Canada.
But you also have to consider in Canada, I think, is that we have only a few highly concentrated areas of population.
Right.
Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, and guess where the most cases are?
Toronto, Montreal.
Yeah, you think? I'm shocked. I don't know. I'm not sure that it's not all being manipulated. And they keep saying, well, until there's a vaccine, well, it took how many years to get a partially effective vaccine for the flu?
Yeah, I will say what I heard. So, I mean, obviously, I'm sure you know Dr. Fauci because he's a huge political figure here in the States.
Yes, I know. Yes, because I'm on Facebook, I see lots of Donald Trump stuff and Joe Biden stuff.
Right. But, Fauci, I'm pretty sure it was Fauci, or it might have been the CDC, but I thought it was Fauci that had come out and said that, it would be still like another year or two, he felt, before the vaccine was, basically widely available and distributed to everybody. And it's like, oh my God, another year?
I know. I'm like you. I'm like, if that's what we're waiting for, then we all have a big problem.
we're all going to have a real big problem. Yeah, it's
because I mean, I get it. Yeah, I'm not denying there's a virus going around. There absolutely is. Is our reaction to it what needs to be done, or are we still reacting to what we were afraid was going to come?
Yeah.
I don't know what the hospital loading is like there. Here they kept telling us, we've got to flatten the curve so the hospitals don't get overwhelmed and we don't run out of ICU. Well, that never happened.
Right. Yeah,
and
I know.
Now the new thing is, well, look, we're reporting instead of 400 cases a day, 1,500. But now we're doing 45,000 tests a day and not 4,500.
Right.
But that doesn't play into the whole, giving us all the numbers doesn't help the cause.
Right.
So I just hope, I don't know. I don't know if the border is going to be open before next spring for driving.
Boy, and I mean, one thing that I never really thought about until now, it's like, I'm assuming that some of the tourist spots were open over the summertime, but I mean, take Niagara Falls and you look at all the money from a tourism standpoint. I mean, what's happening to all those places? They got to be dying.
Well, I would think, yeah. I mean, I remember I was talking to Joe when we were talking about maybe trying to do a little Canadian sort of a one-off TNT thing. I think he said to me, because he knows everybody in Niagara Falls that is anybody, and he said something like, well, the hotels have a 10% occupancy rate, but next week when the restrictions have been reduced to whatever the number was, they went from like 10, I don't know the exact numbers, but let's say they went from 10,000 rooms were rented out to 100,000 rooms in 1 week.
Wow.
Because everybody wants to go do something. Yeah, and all of a sudden the restrictions are reduced and they go do it.
Right.
And I understand that too. Like staying at home, telling us stay at home, don't go out, don't shop, don't hang around with your friends. We still can't have a funeral here with more than 10 people.
Right.
Is that the same here, Chris?
Pretty close, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all restricted.
Well,
it's all going to go downhill too once we get the new gathering restrictions firmed up for the state.
Did they not go into effect yet?
I think they went into effect Monday, and then they need to get firmed up and get everybody around what they say in Albany and what happens in Waterloo.
Oh, yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Totally.
On Halloween, you could drive around town and there's these houses with, 12, 15 cars parked out in front of them.
Right.
And I know that we didn't have those restrictions then. But, we're down to 10 people, bars and stuff closing at 10 o'clock, just trying to keep people off the streets. Getting back to the racing side of things, some of the conversation that's been floating around is one of the reasons why, like Empire Super Sprints, they're called America's race cars, and they go up to Canada and spend half the season over the border.
Okay.
At all those different tracks. They didn't have a season this year. I think they only contested one
they didn't
formal
have a season.
race.
They didn't have a season at all.
They had a race at Canandaigua, and they ran a couple exhibition type races, like if Empire Super Sprints gets together with the Patriot Sprint Tour, which is another New York, Pennsylvania region 360 sprint car tour, or URC, which is based out of New Jersey, Eastern PA. They just make these challenge races, so you get show-up points, but it's not a formal thing. But the one governing body or another will be in charge of the race. They'll be the race directors.
Mm-hmm.
So if one group uses passing points like Patriot Sprint Tour does, then the Empire Super Sprint guys are going to use passing points. But if they use qualifying and heat structure and stuff like that, when ESS is in charge, then the Patriot Sprint guys follow that measure. But they never even got the chance to go over the border. There was no season for them either. So a lot of the circle tracks that we saw this year, I didn't realize that I didn't change that camera. Here I am pontificating.
At this point, I have to say, I'd love to know, just statistically, scientifically. So if you looked at the number of people from the U.S. that would go up to Canada, let's call it during the summer, and people from Canada that would come down to the U.S. during the summer, what's the net? So does Canada see a net positive? Does the U.S. see a net positive? I'm guessing it's probably close to a wash.
I'll tell you, especially in the fall,
Yeah.
that we see a lot of Canadians come down starting the first week of October for dirt track stuff between Outlaw 200 weekend and then Super Dirt Week, which falls in line with Canada's Thanksgiving celebration. It's typically the Monday after. It's our Columbus Day.
Yeah.
And the Monday after Super Dirt Week wraps up, there are droves and droves of Canadians that come down for that. And drivers, too. 358 modifieds and pro stocks are very popular over there, and those have faded off in our neck of the woods here. So the tracks that did open that couldn't rely on touring series like Advanced Auto Parts, wow, that was a time warp. The Super Dirt Car Series, the big block modifieds that you see at like Canandaigua, they have a tour. They only ran maybe 7 or 8 races through the course of the year and didn't crown a champion, nor did the 358s, nor did the Pro Stocks. And the Sportsmen didn't really, but they had the regional tour, so they could at least do something. Those series didn't do anything, so the home tracks that they ran at live streamed all the races.
Okay.
For $20, $30, $40 a pop. And while you didn't make everything up, they still were bringing in enough to where they could pay the standard season purses mostly. So so that helped get over that hump.
Yep.
It didn't replace everything, but boy, did you get some exposure to some new fans too.
Sure.
You know, and it's out there on demand, so you get to see some of the other. And that stuff wasn't really the standard. So I'm interested to see going forward. And I know there's all this doom and gloom stretching into December and stuff. Eventually, we are going to have the ability to get back to racing, and I want to see what it looks like. Because now the tracks that used to poo-poo was like, pay-per-view's not a good idea. Pay-per-view doesn't work.
Yeah.
Now they had to rely on it, and they saw what it could do. So that changes things dramatically. And I mean, let's face it, we're going to get the headers done on your car faster than we're going to get a vaccine.
How many of your stainless headers coming along?
That's from Jeff.
I don't know how they're coming along, honestly. The car is at Randy Jewell's shop. I actually called him earlier this week just to see, get a status report, and I didn't hear back from him. And it's like, I'm not in a huge hurry, but I will say that I talked to Phil Harnden. So Phil just got back from Florida yesterday.
Dropped off another canvas bag full from Oldfield Bank and Trust full of moldy dollars.
Right.
Whatever happens.
So Phil got back from Florida Monday, and he told me that our plan racing wise next year is to certainly use the Corvette at the beginning of the season, potentially even into June, July. He's going to be in no hurry to get the Camaro back ready. He wants to have the engine rebuilt on the Camaro, and he doesn't want to do any of that. So, Kevin, for your I guess knowledge, so Phil takes the motorhome down in November, then comes back basically until Christmas, and then goes back down for the winter.
Right. So he posts photos of his dog and his cat.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But he doesn't want to start working, and I don't blame him. He doesn't want to come back early from Florida, so he doesn't really want to start working on the race car until he gets back in April. And it's like, from that standpoint, look, we're all doing this for fun as a hobby, right? We're in no hurry.
Yeah.
The Corvette.
If there's no fun involved, then why do we do it? I already have a job.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's exactly right. So Corvette will be ready. So yeah, why not use it? And as I told him that. Look, I'll be interested to give it a go anyways to see how it works. So, yeah, why not use it?
So are you going to put a stop on it?
On the Corvette?
Yeah.
Oh, the Corvette's always had a stop on it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
No, you know, I mean, I only see very few photos of it. Usually you're in the Camaro. Then you were fighting issues with the Camaro, and Phil said it's because of the tire, and I don't know what the ultimate result was other than I saw there will never be another tire but a Goodyear on here.
Well, the ultimate result was, and I have to say, I'm still, and maybe it's just the engineer in me, because I didn't find anything broken per se, physically that I could see with my eyes broken, but we put a really old set of Goodyears on the car, and the car went perfectly straight. And at that point in time, it was like, okay, this has to be it's got to be the tires. So we went out and bought a new set of Goodyears, and for the most part, the car was pretty good this season.
So he went straight with the new. Because I was about to say, what are you on Kijiji looking for all the old Goodyears you can find now?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So the car for the most part went pretty straight. It could probably still use a touch more preload in the top passenger bar to get it to go a little straighter, but. Before it was crazy. I mean, before I could have put 4 turns of preload in it, and the thing still would have gone to the right. So, knock on wood. I think that was it. But yeah, for now.
Really, you think it's all the tire? Like it wasn't like I don't know, a bent housing. I don't know. I don't know what would cause that, especially when it won't react when you make a big change like that.
Right. Yeah, and that was the crazy thing. I mean, we actually had a brand new housing built for it. So yeah, the synopsis
it still went the wrong way.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, the short synopsis is we made all sorts of suspension adjustments, finally found that the rear end housing was cracked, said, aha, that's got to be it. So we had a new rear end housing built, put that in the car, went out, and it still went to the right. And then we continued to play around, made more suspension adjustments, and found that the front left strut was frozen up. Aha, that's the problem. So it took the car up.
Yeah. Oh, I hear you.
So
that's it. You
right.
go to the track. Oh, that wasn't it.
Right. So took the car to FJ, had FJ Smith put a set of front struts on the car, went back out, and car still goes to the right. More suspension adjustments, and that's when we got to the tire. Now, I will say I'm a little skeptical, potentially, that this could be a wheel problem as well. So I was looking at the wheel at the end of the season. I'm like, I'm not really crazy about the way this wheel works. The wheel looks, and it's a fairly new wheel. So Uncle Phil has promised he's going to spend a little bit of money and buy me a new set of wheels and even modernize the car a little bit from a look standpoint. So I'm interested to see what happens with that.
Well, because I mean I know guys. I don't know anybody who's had the problem that doesn't make the change when you change the suspension.
Right, yeah.
And ultimately says it's got to be the tire. And like, I've had Hoosiers, I've had Goodyears, I've had Firestones, and the car pretty well works the same way all the time.
Yep, yeah.
I hope I didn't just jinx myself.
Well, I'm right there with you, Kevin, because, I've used them all. I prefer... the Hoosiers are Mickey Thompson's, and my number one tire generally has been the Hoosier. I mean, I've had the best luck with the Hoosiers. After this, I mean, would I run a Goodyear or Mickey Thompson? Yeah, absolutely. I'd run either of them without hesitating. But yeah, I'm not 100% convinced it was the tire, but it kind of looks like the smoking gun. But again, I'm not completely convinced that the wheel doesn't have something to do with that too. And so we'll change that to fix that.
You're just happy that it goes reasonably straight and you can drive it without wondering which way should I point the wheel when I let go of the button?
At this point, the car at least goes straight enough that I can race it, which, yes, I couldn't do. It literally got to the point where before I couldn't even do that. I couldn't make a 60-foot pass. It was so bad. So, yeah, I don't know. But, I mean, looking at the tire, you couldn't see anything on the sidewall. Inspecting the inside, you couldn't see anything. So there was nothing from a visual standpoint you could look at and say that, oh, yes, look, this is what the problem is. And it wasn't until we put that old set of Goodyears on that it went straight. But at the same point in time, when we put those tires on, those old tires were mounted on a different set of wheels. And so I have at least a little bit of question as to whether or not that wasn't potentially helping this out as well.
Now you need to slap a new set of tires on those old wheels.
Right.
And then you'll know.
Well, yeah, and what we're going to do is we're going to buy...
So what you're telling me is if I see some wheels for sale on Kijiji, some old wheels from you guys, I better not buy them.
I'd probably steer clear, yes.
Well, I've got old wheels, like from 1990, my weld wheels.
I will say that when I sold off the Corvette, I sold a set of the Oh God, the Krager Pro Stars, I think, is what they were called. When Glidden first had them on his car.
Are those the ones with look like center lines with little holes all around them?
No, they were stars, but they were like I'm going to say a cast aluminum wheel. I think it was Glidden's Probe, if I remember correctly, was the first car to have those wheels on them. And they were super popular. And I had them on the Corvette for 20 years, and I figured, all right, I'm going to sell these things. What am I going to get for them? Oh, my God, they sold in a heartbeat.
Yeah, because nostalgia. Nostalgia is the new big thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, it's like I sold them for too little, clearly, because the demand was through the roof for them. But I was also glad to free up the space in my garage, so wasn't going to complain too much.
And that and all the old tools you're showing us. I haven't seen any of your tools lately.
I haven't done any tool time with Jason Oldfield recently. I do have probably a half dozen more that I'm still looking for answers for. Certainly feel free to chime in with your answers if you know what the heck they are.
I haven't obviously seen those ones. I've known some of the ones you've done, and some of them I'm like, well, I wonder what that is.
Yeah, the last set was I was told was something for for setting points, but I'm not convinced that's.
I remember that. I'm not 100% sure that was exactly right for a 6-cylinder Chevy distributor only.
Yeah. I'm not convinced that's what it was either. But I got to do some more of those. Kind of got busy and sidetracked doing some projects around the house and doing the typical fall cleanup and putting stuff away for the winter time. And
was the floor all
How
done?
did you like the last 8 days of 70-degree weather? I'm assuming you got it the same as we did.
Yeah. It's been great. Floor's done, Chris. Floor's done in the garage. I mean, for the most part, it's as done as it's going to get. Toolbox is, I will say, I've transferred everything from the one toolbox to the other and have some of the old tools on the bench. But yeah, it's pretty much ready to go.
Jim Jackson said, so the museum's open.
The museum is open, yes.
Open.
And I'm not charging admission. You can come stop by anytime. It's free.
Why? Why are
You have to bring, what is it, whiskey that you like?
Exactly.
All right.
Yes, bring a bottle of whiskey and we'll share it together as I give you a tour of the museum.
Yes, because I gather you weren't really fond of the tequila that you showed that one night.
No, the tequila, I am not a fan of tequila. My buddy Joe Slovak, who passed away, he was the big tequila guy, and I never liked it. And but yeah, in his honor, I had to have a tequila shot. But yeah, definitely not my thing. By
Not
any
your
means.
cup of tea, as it were.
Yes. So your Corvette at this point, could you basically have it off jack stands and ready to go?
Well, I could. I got the seat belts redone from RJS. They're still sealed in the bag that they came in, and 1 year of the certification is gone.
Right.
Right now it says December 2021. So there you go. And so I mean, in a few hours the car could be ready to go. But like I say, if I can't go over the border next year, and so therefore there would not likely be any TNT, or I won't be able to go to a super rod race.
Right.
Then I guess I'll have to learn how to bracket race again.
Yeah, I will say that.
I don't want to stay home for a whole summer again like I did this year, waiting.
Right.
Waiting. Can't be like this forever. Well, maybe longer than we thought.
It was definitely long. It's been a lot longer than I thought. I figured for sure, much like Trump had said, quite honestly, logically, just like the flu, I figured, okay, weather will warm up, and once that happens, this will all go away, and life will be back to normal. But, it's not going to be in March or April or even early May, but, by mid-June, everything will be okay. And, boy, I was really wrong. I guess that's why I'm not an infectious disease expert. But
maybe you don't want to be right now. You want to have a headache.
Yes, exactly. So before you, I guess, stopped working on the car, did you do anything major to it from 2019 to 2020 off season?
No. Well, it took me half of the summer to get my logbook back from Patrick.
Yep.
So now I'll be able to. I didn't even open it up because once I stopped working, I'm like, well, I guess I'll wait and see. I haven't even figured out how many passes he put on the car since Joe did the motor last time.
When was that? When did Joe do the motor?
He raced it the first year and won the championship.
Yeah.
And when he brought me the car back to put it away, we looked in the logbook, and I went, buddy, you put 160 passes on the car. Maybe you should take my motor with you when you go home.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what happened. And I don't know how many passes he put on last year because I didn't open the logbook. I don't think that he raced as much last year as he had been, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that I mean, and obviously I don't know. I mean, I'm not in your backyard spying on you, but my impression was that Patrick was not out with the car as much as he had been the previous year.
I think he did. He did, because the first year, of course, you give a guy one of the only things that's owned and paid for that you have forever, and you give a guy, here's my trailer, here's my golf cart, here's my car.
Right.
So the first year, he didn't get to do much that I didn't go see.
Yep.
And in the second year, there was, I'm sure, several events he went to that I didn't even know.
Uh-huh.
But I also knew by then that he knew how to drive the car.
Right,
and
right.
I knew that I had made it clear, if the car's out of shape, we're not John Force.
Right, right.
So lift.
Yep.
Lift, lose, tomorrow's another day.
Yep.
So, as I say, I didn't go through the logbook to try to figure out how many runs he put on it the second year. I could very well look at it and go, oh, he put another 160 runs on the
Sure.
car. And maybe I need to take the motor out again, but I've been busy, trying to, for the lockdown I didn't do much work-wise, but I did stuff at home, and in the last 8 days I stayed home and cleaned leaves.
Yes.
But they're all done. The place looks great. We're ready for winter. Well, I'm not ready for winter, but the yard is.
Right. I will say my wife and kids did leaves. I was working on stuff inside, and my wife and kids did leaves. And I will say the next morning you would never even know that they did them.
Well, that's what usually happens. Up until this year, that's what usually happens to me. I live on a 2-acre wooded lot.
Yep.
And it's all maple trees and beech trees. And then there's a fringe that my neighbor owns around me that's all maple trees and beech trees and old pine trees that shed needles all over the place. So typically I would clean leaves and you wouldn't know. But this year we had a couple of, and I'm sure you did too, a couple of crazy windstorms.
Yep.
And it managed to knock all the leaves out of the trees. So when we got to clean up, it's clean still. And there's no more leaves up in the trees. There's still leaves in the neighbor's fringe wood lot.
Yeah.
But now they're on the ground and they're stuck together, and typically not too many of them blow over.
I would say the worst tree that I have on my lot, and it's getting pretty empty now, is I have an oak tree. And that oak tree is always the last one to shed its leaves. And it's like I know I gotta get out there and get the leaves off the ground now because let's face it, snow's coming soon.
Oh yes, I'm pretty sure in another week or two.
Yeah, so
I have no oak. My neighbor across the street has oak trees, and I live on the south side of the road, and the prevailing wind comes from the northwest. So I clean up lots of oak leaves.
Yep.
But this year in our area anyway, we had some sort of caterpillars, gypsy moth.
Oh, we had those all over too here. Yeah. Off the ground now.
Yeah, well, they wiped it. They took all the leaves off his oak trees.
Oh.
And they took all the leaves off my beech trees.
Oh, no kidding.
And typically for us, the beech trees don't drop their leaves until next spring when the new leaves push them off.
Huh.
But this year they were bald.
Yeah, I was surprised actually this spring when we had all the gypsy moths. I'm like, what the heck are these things? And I had to do a little bit of research to figure it out. And it was It was crazy. I have to say, can't say that I really saw any difference in the trees themselves. But
well, apparently the trees will survive. Like typically, the trees will come back again next spring.
Yep.
And the gypsy moths are supposedly, I guess, for want of a better, I don't know. Anyway, they say it's like a 7 or 8 year cycle.
Okay, so they'll be dormant basically for like the next 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know. Who knows? I'm assuming. I was all right with all the beech trees being bald.
One less thing to maintain, right?
Right. Now, what will suck is if they don't come back next year and I have to cut them down.
Yeah.
Then there's another whole big giant project, and
Exactly.
Cutting up the big parts of the wood isn't bad, but getting rid of the brush is a pain.
Yeah. Well, we'll hope that for the spring, your big project is going to be putting the race car back together again, so you can come down here.
I would hope so, yes, and I really better look at my logbook because I don't want to be the guy who phones Joe in March and says, "Hey, can I bring in my motor? I need it in April."
Right. Well, I know that's...
You know how motor builders like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was a conversation I just had with Mike Janis about Phil's motor. We put a whopping 16 runs on Phil's car this year, but we had gotten to the end of 2019 and pretty much knew that we needed to probably freshen the motor after this season. And, yeah, whether it was 16 runs or 100 runs, it really didn't make a difference. So that motor's going off to Mikey here in the next couple of weeks to have him freshen ours.
Even with only 16 runs on it?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be one of those things where if 2021 is a regular season from start to finish, you'd get to the mid-season and you'd be, starting to cringe, be like, geez, I really hope it makes it the rest of the way.
Yeah.
So
it's cheaper and easier and better to rebuild it than it is to blow it up.
There is no truer words than that, for sure. Yeah, blowing stuff up definitely takes its toll.
Yes.
Yeah. Right now, I mean, you're looking at rings and bearings, and I think Phil's gonna plan on replacing, the whole valve train. Just it's probably time, but yeah, once you put the rod through the pan, it's like that just isn't good.
No, it never bodes well. That block is not coming back to life except as a doorstop.
Yeah, and it's all the extra collateral damage that goes on top of it too, right? It's like, oh, geez, if the rod just wouldn't have come around and hit the crank again, I could have reused the crank, but it's garbage too. It's like there's another $1,000. And
yeah. Oh yes, been there, done that. One of my 396s when I had the 4-speed in the car, I used to launch the thing at 7,000 RPM, and the local guy that used to do my motors had said to me, "Kevin, you really beat on that motor. You probably should give it to me. Let me go through the bearings." Yeah, okay, Bill, I'll do that. And well, there was no rebuilding that motor after the next weekend.
Well, did he build you a new one at least?
Well, he built me another one, but not that one.
Right.
That one was, probably now being made into body panels in China somewhere for a new car.
Right. Well, hey, really appreciate you coming on and spending a little bit of time with us. Anybody you need to shout out to before we let you go?
Well, I just hope that your series and the TNT series and all those other guys that work so hard get to have some good things happen next year.
Well, us too. We got our fingers crossed. I mean, right now, I will say running the 5/10 Pro Tree definitely reinvigorated me a little bit, just because it brought some more competitors. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to having a full season, and hopefully the border will be open and we can get some of you guys to come down and have some fun with us.
I would like that. I would look forward to that.
The grand return for 2021.
Not
just Kevin, for racing.
Tour.
Yeah. I mean, it's racing in general, right? It's crazy. Yeah, I got my fingers crossed for sure.
We need sweaters that say the Grand Return Tour 2021.
We'll get to work on that.
Actually, we could
All right.
probably do that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we happen to know a guy, so we'll see what we can
you
do.
know a guy who knows a guy who can make that happen.
Yes, exactly.
I'm wearing it.
Yep. Yeah.
Perfect.
All right.
Well, thanks a lot, Kevin.
Well,
Really
thank
appreciate.
you guys for calling me.
Hey, thanks. It was great catching up with you. Good talking to you. Tell Laura I said hello, and if I don't talk to you again, have yourself a great Christmas and New Year.
And you too, and everybody stay healthy.
Hey, you too, Kevin.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
See you guys.
Kevin Orr. Christmas and New Year's wishes already. Their Thanksgiving was a month ago. So
I was going to wish them a happy Thanksgiving, but it's like I missed that. So belated happy Thanksgiving to all my Canadian friends. Yeah, Christmas and New Year's. I don't. I trade messages with Kevin occasionally on Facebook, but don't get a chance to actually talk with him in person unless it's at the racetrack. So my guess is that considering that we're 6 weeks away from 2021, I'd be surprised if I talked to Kevin again before then.
Right. Most likely.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And why? What good reason is it that you won't talk to him between now and then?
No good reason other than, I'm busy, right?
Right.
Everybody's busy doing their own thing, family, work.
Can't blame WWE champions anymore.
That's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's always something going on. Recently for me, it's been literally, I guess, I don't want to call it remodeling, but painting the living room and rearranging and hanging stuff and crap like that. So that's
Plus the siding, right?
Windows and siding has not come yet. We're still waiting on that. But it doesn't surprise me. We were told initially that it was going to be October, but with COVID, we got a call probably beginning of October that supply is way behind, and the good news is that I guess that they can do that year round, unlike a roof where they won't do it in the wintertime. The windows and siding they will. So it's like I don't really care if they're not there until January. Whatever.
We'd been waiting a while to get the siding done, and they finally got to where they were going to get going on it.
Yeah.
And the color that we wanted was going to add another 7 weeks of wait time. And they said, we can get another color that's close. Do it.
Yeah.
And we got a green roof on the house with the white gutters and white soffits and sills. And you can't tell, but if you took a piece of the snipping and went to the neighbor's house and held it up against their siding, it is the exact same color as the neighbor's.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. The neighbor complimented ours. I don't know if they know that it's the same color.
Hey, I love your color. Well, yeah, and I will say that was...
We were going to go with mineral, and we ended up with clay.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I don't...
Whatever colors those are. Well, I would say it's funny because our living room is painted sea salt. So what color would you think sea salt is?
Like an off-white?
I would think, white, right? No, it's a green color. It's like, all right, whatever. Sea salt.
Makes sense.
Yeah, but
I guess.
And siding-wise, we're in the same boat you are. We went with the quote-unquote premium color, so I'm sure that's why the lead time is extra long. And again, I'm not in a hurry, and it's going to be on the house for a bazillion years, so whatever. Go ahead.
We weren't as much worried about the aesthetics as we had the old cedar plank. Cedar shingle siding on.
I feel your pain.
And some of it needed a coat of paint in a bad way.
Oh, that's my house
year
for sure.
Year and a half ago.
Oh yeah, that's my house for sure.
And we wanted to be able to do furring strips and a wrap and be done with it without having to take all the siding off, and of course without having to paint it. So that's where we were at. So when they said you might need to get it, do it.
Now I'm curious. This isn't obviously a home improvement podcast, but for your siding, did they pull the cedar shingles off, or did they go right over it?
No, that was our goal, was to catch this before we got to a dry rot, weather rot issue.
And it had to be pulled.
Pulled off.
Yep.
So there's some that were in disrepair.
Yep.
But were still very much. They weren't leaking. They weren't rotting off the house or anything like that.
Okay.
They needed paint more than they needed anything. Same thing with the sills around all the windows. And if we got to it at the right time, they were just going to use epoxy and sealant and wrap the existing
Yep.
wood in the flashing and be done with it. And
Yep.
they did. And have you been there since the siding has been completed? I think you were there once.
I was at the house. I think it was completed, though maybe it was only completed on a couple sides. I don't
No, I mean,
recall.
if you saw one, you saw them all.
Yeah. But I will say the side that I saw, at least the front, looked really nice. And
It's not like we got the back half of the house and decided to run all the siding vertically. You know?
Right. Well, yeah, and your house, I mean, it sounds just like my house. It's exactly the same situation. They're going over the top. It really needs paint. I mean, the stupid between the carpenter bees and the woodpeckers as well. I mean, putting holes in the side of it. Yeah, nothing terrible is going on at the moment, but it's on the verge. Something needs to be done, and so hopefully it just won't turn into we're sorry, we can't get you siding until October of 2021.
They also threw the plastic cleats on the... When we put our steel roof on, you would think that the person that does steel roofing would say, hey, the way that your steel roofing runs, you should probably put some cleats up there so that when it sheds snow, it doesn't shed 2.5 feet of snow all at one time onto the lower roof that doesn't have any columns.
Yeah.
But he must have skipped that day of steel
dawned
roofing
on
school.
him.
Yeah, it never came up, and for a couple years now, it's been shedding so hard that it's ripped the gutters off the front of the house.
Oh, geez.
It ripped the gutters off the back of the house. So we put cleats on the front half of the house. Now, we didn't do it to the back because we're thinking that the gutters and the clips that held the aluminum gutters on that were installed in 1972, probably the current ones will hold up a little bit better. But we put them on the front so that it at least breaks up the snow, because what happens is it sheds and it hits with such force that it makes this igloo trench along the front of our house that we can't very easily snow blow through.
I would say it's probably fun to watch, though, right? It's like an avalanche.
Well, at about 4 a.m. when it does that.
Yeah, all of a sudden it's like, what's happening?
It's like, was that a 7.0? Nope, just shedding the snow.
Well, hopefully you don't have to worry about that anymore.
It would be great if we didn't learn this year. That's the only thing that got us by the last 2 years, is the fact that we didn't have sustained snowfall. We had the spurts and we had the heavy stuff, but it stayed so dry.
Yeah.
And then, we had that condensed wet season, but then it never really got super wet again. It didn't stay around enough to where it was going to be this spring. I'm talking about 2 years prior. This spring was a little bit of a different story, but we sort of got lucky there.
I thought I heard the experts say this year that it wasn't going to be as bad, supposedly, of a winter. But we know how experts are and how right they are, so I know we can take that to the bank, that this will be a nice mild winter and we won't have to deal with anything. So.
Well, it might be time to get out of here. It appears that Facebook didn't like something and they might be censoring the show. So all the videos being blocked or something. I'm not
Censoring
sure.
us?
Yep. I don't know. I don't get it sometimes. It could be that somebody got mad and reported it too. They got bored of the banter. Let's see if I can find this quick and see what's going on.
I would say didn't like our COVID talk, or
I guess. It might be. It could have been.
did we? I don't think we had any.
Well, it's still on here. At least it's still showing that it's on there.
I would say,
don't know.
did we have any half truths? Or is Trump watching and?
We're good. Eric checked in and says everything's fine.
Okay. All right.
So perfect. Just in time to get out of here.
Yes, it's been an hour anyway, so we'll get out of here before the censors get to us.
Right. All right. Well, I guess we've covered a lot.
Yes,
there was even some drag racing in there.
A little bit. Yeah, you never know what you're going to get when you tune into the Final Round podcast.
Yeah, Jeff was all over it. Yeah, it might have been the
It was probably him.
propaganda.
Yeah, it was probably Jeff.
I don't know. Let's not speculate on that.
I'll speculate about that. He knows I'm kidding.
All right, 85's in the books. Not bad for him having no plan going in.
Yeah, exactly.
Worked out all right. We're going to be back again in a couple of weeks. 2 weeks is going to put us on
Thanksgiving.
a very busy Thursday for everyone.
Yeah, so
sitting
I
at
don't
home
think we're,
and not
I
with
don't
their
think we're going to
family.
be here on Thanksgiving.
No, well, where else are you going to go?
Right. can't have my family over. So yeah, I would guess we either got to do it again next week or be the first week in November, right?
Yeah,
Or December, rather.
We can do it on a different day that week too. We can figure it out.
Oh, we can do that too. Yeah.
We got plenty of time to plan.
Okay.
We got it. We're behind on our planning meetings anyway.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see everybody next time, and we'll let you know when next time is. Thanks a lot for tuning in. We appreciate it. As always, we'll see everybody then. This has been the Final Round Drag Racing Podcast, coming to you live from the FingerLakes1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls, New York. We'll see you right back here again in 2 weeks. Thanks for watching.